The Concise Townscape by Gordon Cullen, a book that made a big impact on urban design. It was published in 1961, right in the middle of post-war reconstruction in the UK. At the time, modernist planning was all the rage. Cities were being rebuilt with a focus on zoning, efficiency, and massive infrastructure. But while those designs aimed to improve living conditions, they often ended up being impersonal spaces that didn't really connect with people that were living in them. Cullen saw this problem and offered a powerful alternative. He believed that cities shouldn't just be functional, they should make a sense of place instead of sterling high rises and rigid grids. He wanted cities to spark curiosity, offers comfort, and foster connection. Gordon Cullen was a pioneering British architect, urban designer, and illustrator. He played a key role in the townscape movement, and the Concise Townscape became his most influential work. He introduced the concept of surreal vision, which focuses on how people move through and perceive urban environments over time. This approach on the visual relationship between buildings, streets, and open spaces, highlighting the importance of perception in shaping our experience of cities. Why does the Concise Townscape still matters today? Cullen focuses on human experience is more relevant than ever. In an age where livability and well-being are prioritized, his emphasis on how people feel in a space rather than just how it functions helps create cities that are more welcoming, engaging, and more meaningful. He also championed visual thinking in planning. He uses his sketches and techniques like serial vision, offered a creative, accessible way to communicate urban ideas too that planners and designers still relies on today. Cullen's design principle, things like enclosure, contrast, rhythm, and movement are timeless. They apply just as well to historic towns as they do to the modern developments. As cities aim to revive town centers, encourage walkability, and create vibrant public spaces, Cullen works offers practical guidance rooted in visual, emotional connection, and in a world increasingly focused on sustainable and inclusion, designing with people in mind, as Cullen advocated, can lead to more cohesive, resilient communities.
Hello, so today I'm going to talk about townscape theory in a nutshell in the chapter under content overview. So Gordon Cullen's townscape theory views cities as visual and emotional experiences, not just functional spaces. He believes urban design should engage people by carefully arranging views, creating memorable place, and considering how spaces make people feel. Cullen approach focused on guiding people through a sequence of dynamic scenes that build rhythm, surprise, and meaning as they move through the city. In short, good urban design should make cities not only work but also delight and inspire those who experience them. So moving on, we have the three core concepts in this content overview. So the first one is the serial vision, which means city should be experienced as a journey of unfolding scenes. As people move, each view shifts, creating rhythm and anticipation. Design should guide this flow, making every step engaging. So the second core concept is place. Cullen stresses that good urban spaces are memorable and emotionally meaningful, not just functional. They should invite people to connect, reflect, and interact. So for the last core concept is the third one, the physical element like walls, path, texture, and landmark form a city's visual language. These shape how people feel and move and understand their surrounding. Moving on to illustration and visual techniques. Cullen's hand-drawn sketches and diagrams are key to this method. They show not just how places look, but how they feel and unfold as people move through them. His visuals explain complex ideas clearly, highlighting the emotional and sensory power of good design. These illustrations act as tools that reveals how spatial layout, texture, and sequence influence human experience.
My name is Siti Humaira binti Nasrun, and today I'll be presenting an analytical review of Gordon Cullen's influential book, The Concise Townscape. This book has had a significant impact on how we understand and design urban spaces, especially from a visual and emotional perspective. Let's dive into the strengths, critics, and continued relevance of this work. One of the most compelling strengths of the concise townscape is Cullen's use of visual storytelling. Rather than relying solely on abstract theory, he uses drawings, photographs, and diagrams to help readers see and feel urban design principles in action. This method makes complex ideas easier to grasp and creates an emotional connection to the material. Another strength is his idea of serial vision, the concept that cities should be experienced as a sequence of unfolding views, not just as static places. As people move through urban spaces, their perspective changes, revealing new moods and emotions. Cullen's focus on movement and perception encourages a more human-centered approach to city design. And finally, his poetic and accessible writing style helps make these ideas approachable to both professionals and casual readers. To the next page, while the book offers many valuable insights, it's not without limitations. One major critique is its lack of depth in analyzing social, cultural, and political contexts. Cullen often treats the urban environment as a neutral stage, rather than acknowledging how issues like power, inequality, or history shape cities. Another issue is that Cullen's perspective can be idealized and subjective. He sometimes overlooks real-world urban challenges, such as housing crisis, multicultural dynamics, and economic inequality. Additionally, the book doesn't fully consider how different people experience urban spaces. For example, a narrow alley might feel interesting to one person but unsafe to someone else, like a child, an elderly person, or someone with a disability. Cullen's focus on visual aesthetics leaves out these diverse social and physical experiences, which are critical in inclusive urban design. And this is the last page of my chapter. So, despite being written in the 1960s, Cullen's work remains highly relevant. His ideas about emotional and sensory experiences in cities have influenced today's human-centered design approaches. Concepts like serial vision, scale, visual rhythm, and enclosure are still used by architects and planners to create engaging, walkable environments. These ideas are now applied alongside modern concerns like climate change, digital infrastructure, and social inclusion. So while Cullen may not have addressed these contemporary issues directly, his work still provides a strong foundation for thinking about how people emotionally connect to the built environment.
We move on to Chapter 4 Visual Feature Sections. This section explores how Cullen's case studies from the concise townscape serve as analytic tools for understanding urban environments. Rather than just illustrations, Cullen's hand-drawn sketches emphasize contrast, rhythm, and spatial experiments such as movement, enclosure, and sudden opening. As we can see here, we can look at image ones, um, Shell Vision Townscape Methodology. This is part of his Townscape methodology, which is seek to geography urban experience like scenes in a film. This visual narrative reveals how a city design can evoke trauma and discovery. Sketch including zero vision techniques, pedestrian viewpoints, architectural detail, and transition in space encouraging viewers to perceive urban design as a layer and experiential journey. Next, this slide explains how Green Cullen used before and after visual to highlight the transformation from dull, Promethean anti-townscape to lively human-centered environment. We can see here the image, the difference between before and after. Motochus and inspired urban scenes are contrast with improved design featuring vertificates, pedestrian-friendly elements, and spatial organization. This visual comparison demonstrates how simple, thoughtful design changes can quickly enhance emotional and aesthetic experiences in urban settings, supporting Cullen's belief that cities should be inspired, delights, belonging, and visual richness. Next, Moonboy, the ideal urban scenes. These slides present a moonboy inspired by Gordon Cullen's principle, emphasize the using of color, texture, and layout to evoke a strong sense of place. Warm color suggests intimacy, while cool tones imply openness and distance. Textures and spatial transition are layered to create a rich, visual, and tactile experience. The moonbots guide viewers through a narrative urban journey from the approach to a square, through a shaded colonnade, and ending in a silent courtyard mirror Cullen's idea of urban design as a sequencing of emotion and spatial episodes.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Danish, and today I'm going to talk about comparative context in the book of Gordon Cullen's The Concise Townscape. So the first one is the comparative context in Gordon Cullen, The Concise Townscape. Cullen used comparative context to show the difference between modernist planning and townscape principles. By comparing these two, he argues that cities should not only be efficient but must also offer rich visual and emotional experience. This method helps readers see how design choices affect the way people feel and interact in urban spaces. Moving on to the contrast of movement, static planning versus dynamic experience. Cullen contrasts the static, fixed nature of modern urban planning with dynamic and changing experience of moving through a well-designed townscape. He believes that cities should unfold like a journey, offering new views, contrasts, and sequences that engage people as they move, rather than just serving functional need. So the last point in this chapter is human scale versus monumental scale in urban form. So Cullen explains that successful cities balance large, grand structures with spaces that feel comfortable and welcoming to people. Monumental building can impress, but without human scale, public spaces feel cold and impersonal. Cities should blend grandeur with intimacy, creating areas that are both powerful and emotionally engaging.
Reading The Concise Townscape by Gordon Cullen completely shifted how I see cities. I used to think of urban design as mostly technical, about infrastructure, functions, and zoning. But Cullen introduced me to the emotional and experimental side of city lives. He showed how to build environment influenced how we feel, move, and connect with others. Through his vivid illustrations and insightful commentary, He transformed my understanding of cities from static, planned structure to dynamic, unfolding experiences shaped by how we perceive and navigate space. It's a perspective that continues to shape the way I think about city designs today. One concept that resonates deeply in me is serial vision. Cullen's idea that we don't experience a city all at once, but through a sequence of unfolding views as we move through it. It made me realize that urban design isn't just about individual buildings or spaces, it's about the choreography of movement and insight lines. Now I find myself noticing how turning a corner, entering a courtyard, or emerging from a narrow street into an opening plaza can create powerful emotional response. It made me more aware of how I move through spaces and how designers can shape that journey with intention and care.
To conclude, the Concise Townscape is recommended for architects, urban designers, planners, and students, as well as anyone interested in how cities are experienced visually and emotionally. The book's enduring impact lies in its ability to shift our perspective, reminding us that cities are not just made of buildings and streets, but of sequences, contrasts, and surprises that shape our daily experiences. Even decades after its publication, Cullen's human-centered and visually engaging approach continues to inspire and challenge the way we think about urban form and design. Thank you.